1934, a federal pharmacy bulletin, a quiet little rule that pulled Epsom salt off the front shelf of every drugstore in America and tucked it in the back, behind the counter, behind a question, behind a man in a white coat who wanted to know what you planned to do with it. 3 cents a pound. 3 cents. That's what a sack of magnesium sulfate cost your great-grandmother in 1932, and with that 3 cents, she ran a household pharmacy, a garden, a laundry, and a livestock barn. Then the doctors came, then the fertilizer companies came, then the detergent companies came, and one by one, the 25 things Grandma did with that little white sack got replaced by 25 things you now pay for separately at the store. I remember my grandmother in Wheeling, West Virginia, keeping her Epsom salt in a blue ball jar above the icebox, and she'd reach for it before she'd reach for anything else in that kitchen. I thought she was old-fashioned. I spent 40 years buying the modern replacements. Then I added up the receipts. Stay with me, because at number 19, there's a tomato trick that university researchers at Auburn finally admitted doubles your yield. At number 7, there's a foot remedy that a senator's wife wrote about in 1928 that podiatrists now quietly recommend. And at number 1, the climax. There's the single reason this little white mineral was pushed to the back of the shelf, and it has nothing to do with your health. These weren't abandoned because they stopped working. They were abandoned because somebody made more money when your family forgot them. If you believe the old generation knew something we lost, tap subscribe, because we're about to take 25 pieces of it back. Number 25. The splinter draw. Your grandmother kept a small bowl by the kitchen sink, warm water, 2 tablespoons of Epsom salt, soak the finger for 10 minutes. That deep splinter you couldn't dig out with a needle would rise to the surface on its own. The magnesium sulfate pulls fluid through the skin by osmosis, softens the tissue, and lifts the wood. Hospitals charged $35 for a splinter removal by 1970. Your grandmother charged you nothing and didn't even look up from the stove. Number 24, the bruise compress. A washcloth, hot water, a heavy spoonful of Epsom salt dissolved in it, pressed on a fresh bruise for 15 minutes. The swelling drops fast because the salt pulls excess fluid out of the soft tissue. Old baseball trainers in the 1930s used this on every minor league roster in America. Then the sports medicine industry sold the same families, ice packs, gel wraps, and topical creams at $15 a tube. The compress still works. Your freezer still has water in it. You don't need the tube. Number 23, the constipation cure. 1 teaspoon of Epsom salt in a full glass of warm water, first thing in the morning, on an empty stomach. The United States Pharmacopoeia listed magnesium sulfate as an official internal laxative from 1820 all the way through the 1950s. It worked in about 4 hours. Then, the pharmaceutical industry rolled out branded laxatives at $2 a box in 1960 money, $20 in today's dollars, and the cheap mineral that did the same job got quietly pushed off the front shelf. Always check with a doctor before drinking it, but understand. Your great-grandparents drank it every Sunday morning and lived to 90. Number 22, the tired feet soak. A dishpan, hot water, half a cup of Epsom salt, 20 minutes after a long day. Your grandfather did this every Saturday night after standing on concrete all week at the mill. The magnesium absorbs through the skin and relaxes the muscle. By 1965, drugstores were selling foot creams, foot rollers, foot pillows, foot sprays, a whole aisle of foot products, none of which work as well as the dishpan. The dishpan is still in your cabinet. Use it. Number 21, the tomato feed. 2 tablespoons of Epsom salt dissolved in a gallon of water, poured around the base of each tomato plant once a month. Tomatoes are heavy magnesium feeders, and magnesium-starved plants give you yellow leaves and small fruit. University extension trials at Penn State in the 1970s showed the magnesium boost produced visibly larger, redder fruit. The synthetic fertilizer industry hates this because a 3-cent application replaces an $8 bag of tomato food. Number 20. The pepper bloomer. Same recipe, different plant. Peppers crack and drop blossoms when magnesium runs low. Your grandmother grew bell peppers the size of softballs on a backlot in Akron, Ohio, on nothing but kitchen scraps, rainwater, and a monthly Epsom salt drench. The garden centers don't tell you this because they want to sell you Bloom Booster at $12 a bottle. Number 19. The Rose Revival. A handful of Epsom salt scratched into the soil around the base of a rose bush every spring, watered in well. The roses that climbed your grandmother's porch in Indiana weren't fed by anything in a plastic jug. They were fed by a coffee can of Epsom salt kept on the back step. Auburn University Extension publications from the 1980s confirm magnesium sulfate improves chlorophyll production, leaf color, and bloom count in roses by roughly 20%. The garden industry won't print that on a label because then they can't sell you rose food. Number 18, the Lawn Greener. 3 pounds of Epsom salt mixed into a garden sprayer with water, applied across 1,000 square feet of yellowing lawn. Inside 2 weeks, the color comes back deep green without the burn you get from nitrogen fertilizer. The big lawn care companies built a $40 billion industry on the idea that your grass needs a 4-step program. Your grandfather's grass got 1 step, a handful in the spring. Number 17, the seed starter. Soak vegetable seeds, beans, peas, corn, squash in a cup of warm water with a teaspoon of Epsom salt overnight before planting. Germination rates rise dramatically because the magnesium strengthens the cell walls of the young sprout. Ohio State extension trials documented this back in the 1940s, and then it disappeared from every modern seed packet because seed companies make more money when you have to buy a second packet. Number 16, the houseplant rescue. 1 teaspoon of Epsom salt in a quart of water once a month for any indoor plant that's looking pale and sickly. Most potting soil runs out of magnesium within 6 months because the plant takes it all up. Your grandmother's African violets bloomed for 30 years on the windowsill of a little house in Scranton, Pennsylvania. The secret was in the blue jar above the icebox. Number 15, the hair rinse. Equal parts deep conditioner and Epsom salt warmed in the palms, worked through the hair, left for 20 minutes, rinsed out. It pulls excess oil, adds volume, and lifts product buildup. Women in the 1920s used this every 2 weeks. The hair care industry now sells clarifying shampoos at $14 a bottle that do the same job. The salt costs a dime. Number 14, the skin scrub. A small handful of Epsom salt mixed with a tablespoon of olive oil, rubbed on rough elbows, knees, and heels in the shower. Dead skin lifts off in 1 pass. The cosmetics industry sells a body scrub for $28 in a 4-ounce jar. Your great-grandmother made a year's supply for under $1. Number 13, the bath that pulls the day out. 2 full cups of Epsom salt in a hot bath, 20 minutes, 3 times a week. Magnesium absorbs through the skin and lowers cortisol, the stress hormone. A University of Birmingham study, often cited in American naturopathic literature, measured measurable magnesium increases in blood plasma after Epsom salt bathing. Your grandparents called it a long soak. The wellness industry calls it a magnesium therapy session and charges $60 at a spa. Same water, same salt. Number 12, the poison ivy paste. Epsom salt mixed with just enough cool water to form a thick paste. Smeared on the rash, left to dry, it pulls the inflammation right out of the skin. Boy Scouts of America troop manuals from the 1930s listed this remedy by name. The pharmaceutical industry replaced it with a pink lotion at $9 per bottle. The paste works faster. Always test a small patch first and see a doctor if it spreads. Number 11. The mosquito bite stop. A cool compress, water and Epsom salt pressed on the bite for 5 minutes. The itch is gone. The swelling drops. No chemical anti-itch cream needed. Your grandfather kept a small tin of it on the back porch in the summers in rural Georgia. The bug bite relief aisle at the pharmacy did not exist in 1940 because it did not need to. Number 10. The sore throat gargle. 1 teaspoon of Epsom salt in a glass of warm water, gargled 3 times a day. The salt pulls fluid out of inflamed throat tissue, which is what reduces the pain. The over-the-counter throat spray industry doesn't want this printed on the back of every bottle of sea salt, but it's the same mechanism, only stronger. Always see a doctor for anything that lasts more than a few days. Number 9. The toothache hold. A strong solution, a tablespoon of Epsom salt in half a cup of warm water, swished and held against an aching tooth for 2 minutes, then spit out. It draws fluid from the gum, reduces pressure, and dulls the throb. Dentists in rural Oklahoma in the 1930s wrote about this in County Medical Society notes as the standard home holdover until a patient could ride into town. The pain relief industry will never put it on a label. Number 8. The detox foot soak for the apartment dweller. Now, I want to talk straight to those of you watching from a city apartment thinking everything so far requires a yard. This one is for you. A plastic dishpan, hot water from the tap, 1 cup of Epsom salt, 20 minutes, 3 nights a week. Your feet have over 250,000 sweat glands, and that magnesium absorbs straight in. No yard, no garden, no permits, no landlord permission. You can start this tonight in a studio apartment in Brooklyn, and you will sleep deeper within the week. Your great-grandparents in the tenements of Lower Manhattan in 1933 did exactly this with a metal wash tub. Number 7. The cracked heel cure. A nightly soak, 1/4 cup of Epsom salt, warm water, 15 minutes, followed by a thick coat of petroleum jelly and cotton socks. A senator's wife, Edith Bowling Wilson, wrote in her household notebooks in the 1920s about using exactly this remedy on White House staff. The cracks close in a week. Podiatrists now quietly recommend a version of it. The foot cream industry sells you a tube for $16 that doesn't do half the job. Number 6. The muscle cramp drink. Half a teaspoon of Epsom salt in a tall glass of water, sipped slowly for a leg cramp that wakes you up at 2 in the morning. Magnesium deficiency is one of the documented causes of nocturnal cramping, and the United States Department of Agriculture's 1941 nutrition survey already showed most American adults were running short. The supplement industry now sells magnesium capsules for $30 a bottle. The salt is 3 cents a dose. Number 5. The chicken coop cleaner. A heavy sprinkle of Epsom salt across the floor of the coop after you clean out the bedding before you lay the new straw. It deodorizes, reduces mites, and adds magnesium to anything the hens peck at, which strengthens their eggshells. Farmers in the Dust Bowl years swore by it. The poultry supply industry now sells a coop refresher for $22 a bag. You don't need it. Number 4. The wound wash. A weak solution, a teaspoon of Epsom salt in a quart of warm boiled water used to flush a minor scrape or shallow cut. It draws out dirt and reduces swelling. Field manuals from the United States Army Medical Corps in the 1917 era listed magnesium sulfate solutions as a standard wound irrigation when nothing else was available. Always see a doctor for anything deep, anything dirty, anything that won't stop bleeding. But for the small scrapes of a child playing in the yard, your great-grandmother had this in the cabinet. Number 3. The laundry brightener. Half a cup of Epsom salt added to a load of whites in the wash alongside the regular soap. It softens hard water, lifts grime, and brightens dingy cotton. Your grandmother's sheets came off the clothesline in West Virginia, whiter than anything the modern laundry aisle can produce, and her washing powder cost pennies. Then, Procter & Gamble built a $500 million advertising machine in the 1950s to convince American women they needed 5 different products to do one job. They didn't. They never did. Number 2. The dish soap booster. A spoonful of Epsom salt added to a sink of hot dishwater alongside your regular soap. It cuts grease faster, especially on cast iron and baked-on pans. Restaurant kitchens in the 1940s used this trick before they could afford commercial degreasers. The dish soap industry doesn't print it on the label, for the same reason no industry ever prints anything that would let you use less of their product. And now, number 1. This is the climax. This is the one that ties every other item on this list together into a single idea. Are you ready? Your great-grandparents had a pharmacy, a garden center, a laundry aisle, a foot care section, a beauty counter, a poultry supply store, a lawn care company, and a wellness spa, all sitting in one blue jar above the icebox. 3 cents a pound, a sack that lasted a year, and that right there is why it had to go. You cannot build a $40 billion lawn care industry, a $12 billion laxative industry, a $6 billion foot care industry, a $60 billion wellness industry, and a $90 billion gardening industry as long as American families keep solving 25 problems out of one little white sack. The villain at number 1 is not a single company. It is the entire economic model that needs you to buy 25 products instead of one. The splinter draw at 25 gave you independence from the emergency room. The tomato feed at 21 gave you independence from the fertilizer aisle. The bath at 13 gave you independence from the wellness spa. The laundry brightener at 3 gave you independence from the soap company. Every single number on this list is one chain your grandparents refused to wear and one chain a modern industry sold back to your family at 1,000 times the price. You just got it back, all 25 of it, for 3 cents a pound. Here's what I want you to feel right now. Your grandparents never asked permission to take care of their own family. They didn't wait for a label. They didn't wait for a brand. They didn't wait for an industry to approve the remedy. They reached above the icebox, opened the blue jar, and they handled it. So pick one. Just one. Soak your feet tonight in number 8. Drench your tomatoes this weekend in number 21. Toss half a cup in the whites tomorrow morning in number 3. One thing, start there. Now tell me in the comments, and I mean actually type it, because this audience never comments unless I ask, did your grandmother keep a jar of Epsom salt in the kitchen? What did she use it for? What's the one remedy from your family that the modern world tried to bury? I read every single one, and I share the best ones in the next video. Subscribe if you want to keep recovering what they took, because next week I'm opening up Grandma's vinegar jar, and what comes out of that one is going to make the Epsom salt list look small.